Ethan Cole's shuttle shuddered as it passed through the thin atmosphere of the desert moon. Dust and sand whipped against the viewports, and alarms blared inside the cockpit. He gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles white, and tried to steady the trembling ship. "This is bad," he muttered to himself. The engines were failing. The shuttle had taken damage from a sudden sandstorm while he was mapping the northern craters. Every warning light seemed to scream at him, and the temperature gauge showed rising heat. He had only minutes to find a safe place to land. The terrain below was harsh. Mountains of red sand stretched in all directions, broken by jagged rock formations that seemed to pierce the pale sky. There were no signs of life, no water, no shelter. Only the wind and the endless sun. Ethan squinted, scanning for any possible safe landing. Finally, through the haze, he saw it, a structure, old and strange, half buried in the sand. It looked like a small stone outpost, square and weathered, with faded markings on its walls. Without thinking, he steered the shuttle toward it. The ship's engines groaned and sparks flew, but he managed a rough landing. The shuttle skidded across the sand before stopping with a final, shuddering jerk. Ethan exhaled slowly, trying to calm his racing heart. "I made it," he said, though he knew the danger was not over. The shuttle could catch fire at any moment, or the structure could be empty and offer no help. He opened the hatch carefully, stepping out into the scorching sunlight. The heat hit him immediately. The suns burned in the sky above, their light harsh and blinding. Sand clung to his boots and uniform, and he felt sweat trickle down his neck. He shielded his eyes and looked at the outpost. It was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no animals, no movement. Only the wind and the distant sound of sand shifting. He approached the entrance. The stones were warm under his hand, but solid. He pushed the door, and it creaked open. Inside, it was dark and cool. Relief washed over him. The air smelled dry and old, but at least it was safe from the sun. He moved carefully through the small corridors, his boots echoing on the stone floor. Then he saw her. She was sitting against the far wall, barely moving, her body small and fragile. Her skin shone silver in the dim light, with soft blue patterns that glowed faintly. Her eyes opened slowly, large and luminous, and she looked at him with fear and exhaustion. She was young, around his age, but something about her presence felt otherworldly. Ethan froze. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Her lips moved, weakly forming sounds he could not understand. She reached out a trembling hand, as if asking for help. Ethan scanned the room. She had no water, no food, and she looked severely dehydrated. He quickly removed his canteen and filled it with water. Kneeling beside her, he offered it gently. "Drink," he said. "It will help you." Her hand shook as she took the canteen. She drank slowly, carefully, as if she had not had water in days. Ethan watched her, worried. After a few moments, her strength returned slightly, and she leaned against him, breathing easier. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, melodic, but not fully human. She said, "I'm yours now." Ethan blinked in surprise. "Wait, what?" She looked at him, eyes bright, and repeated the words. "I am yours." He shook his head. I just gave you water. That's all. I didn't mean." But she smiled faintly, touching his hand. Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through him. He realized she was not just a helpless alien girl. She carried an importance, a meaning he did not yet understand. He helped her stand. She swayed slightly, so he supported her. Her weight was light, but her presence was heavy in the sense that he felt responsible for her. Every step they took together felt like a careful balancing act. Outside, the wind howled. Sand scoured the walls of the outpost, making a low, eerie sound. Ethan scanned the horizon. He could see faint shapes moving far away, almost too small to notice. Shadows, maybe? He could not tell. "Someone's looking for you," he said cautiously, unsure if she would understand. Her eyes widened. She nodded slightly, and he could feel her tension. It was clear she had enemies. "Why?" he asked. She only shook her head. Okay, he said, trying to calm her and himself. "We'll figure it out. We need to move." Ethan checked his pack. He had a small ration of food, extra water, and his multi-tool. He helped her down a side corridor, then opened a small hatch leading outside. The air was still harsh, but he could see a rocky path that might give them some cover. As they walked, Ethan tried to talk. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then said slowly, "Lyra, Lyra," he repeated. "All right, Lyra, I'm Ethan. We're going to get through this, okay?" Her lips curved into a weak smile. She leaned on him as they moved, careful not to slip on the sand. The wind howled again, and he could see the sun beginning to dip behind the distant mountains. Hours passed as they walked through the harsh landscape. The moonscape was unforgiving. Sharp rocks tore at their boots, loose sand made them stumble, and the heat was relentless. Yet, Ethan felt something growing between them. He had saved her from death, but he could feel that she had saved him from something as well, perhaps fear, perhaps loneliness. At one point, Lyra stopped suddenly. She crouched beside a rock and pointed to the ground. There, half buried in the sand, were strange footprints. They were not human, not fully. Ethan knelt, examining them. "They're tracking you," he said. "We need to move faster." Lyra nodded, trusting him. She followed his lead without question, though she occasionally glanced back nervously. Ethan could feel the tension building in her shoulders. It was clear that she had faced danger before, more than he could imagine. By nightfall, they reached a small canyon. The walls were steep, but they offered some shelter from the wind. Ethan helped Lyra sit against a rock and handed her more water. She drank eagerly, finally relaxing slightly. "I'll rest here," he said. "Then we'll find a safer place to stay tomorrow." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the pale starlight. "Thank you," she whispered in broken human words. "You'd save me." Ethan shook his head. "You're stronger than you think. You made it this far." They sat in silence for a while. The two suns now gone and replaced by the cold light of distant stars. Ethan felt a strange sense of calm, even though he knew danger was near. He could not explain why, but he felt that meeting Lyra was not a coincidence. Something about her, and the words she spoke, hinted at a greater destiny waiting. The night grew colder, and he wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. She shivered slightly but did not complain. Ethan watched the sky, wondering what kind of life awaited them on this desert moon. He had saved her with water, a simple act, yet she had declared herself his. It was strange, confusing, and yet, somehow right. He did not know the rules of her world, the customs of her people, or what the future held. All he knew was that he would protect her. Whatever came next, he would not let her face it alone. As they huddled together in the canyon, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this encounter, so sudden and unexpected, was the start of something bigger, something that could change not just their lives, but the fate of worlds. And so, with the desert moon quiet around them, Ethan and Lyra rested. The night wind whispered over the sands, carrying promises and warnings in equal measure. But for now, they were alive, and that was enough. The next morning, Ethan woke to the cold light of the desert sun spilling into the canyon. Lyra was already awake, sitting on a rock and staring at the horizon. Her silver skin glimmered faintly under the pale sun, and the blue markings on her arms seemed to glow slightly. She looked fragile, but there was a quiet strength in her posture that made Ethan pause. "Good morning," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. She looked at him and smiled faintly. "Morning," she replied in broken human words. Her voice was soft but steady. Ethan handed her some water from his pack. "You need to drink more. Yesterday was hard on you." She took the water and drank carefully. "Thank you," she whispered. Then, after a pause, she said, "Ethan, water mine?" Ethan frowned, confused. "Mine? What do you mean?" She looked at him seriously. I am yours now. Water you gave me." Ethan shook his head. "Lyra, I only gave you water because you were dying. That's it. I didn't claim you." Her eyes looked down at her hands. "No, my people. Water, life bond. When someone gives water in danger, I belong." Ethan's mind tried to process what she said. He had heard of strange alien customs before, but this was different. giving someone water in a life-threatening moment. And she considers it a bond. So, you are saying I saved your life, and that makes you bound to me? Ethan asked carefully. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, bound. Until life debt. Pape. Ethan rubbed his temples. I don't know what that means for humans, Lyra. We don't do that. I can't just claim someone like that. She looked at him with wide eyes. But you saved me. You gave water. Life, you chose. I cannot choose alone. Ethan swallowed. He had no idea how to explain human rules to her. She was serious, and it was clear she was not joking. But the dessert was harsh, and they could not stay in one place. We need to move, he said finally. It's open here. If someone is looking for you, they will find us easily. Lyra nodded, standing carefully. Ethan helped her down from the rock. She was light, but every step needed his support. The day was already hot, and the sand reflected the light, making it almost blinding. Ethan pulled his visor down to protect his eyes. He scanned the horizon as they walked. Do you know who is looking for you? He asked. Lyra shook her head. Rebels, Palace. They want me. Ethan frowned. Rebels? The ones who attacked you? She nodded. Yes. Take a core. Force crown. They want me. For power. Ethan felt a chill run through him. He had helped people before, but never someone with such weight on her shoulders. She was more than a girl in danger. She carried a future, and perhaps a weapon, too. They walked quietly, avoiding open spaces and moving along rocky ridges. The desert was full of dangers. Sandpits that could swallow a person whole, jagged rocks that could cut through boots, and strange animals that Ethan had never seen. Suddenly, Lyra froze. Her ears twitched slightly, and her eyes widened. She grabbed Ethan's arm. Shh. They come, she whispered. Ethan followed her gaze. Far on the horizon, small shapes moved slowly across the sand. Drones. They hovered above the ground, scanning for heat signatures. They are searching for you, Ethan said quietly. We need to hide. Lyra nodded and led him toward a narrow canyon, barely wider than their shoulders. They crouched and moved slowly through the shadows. The drones flew overhead, lights scanning. Ethan held his breath, counting the seconds as they passed. When the drones moved on, Ethan exhaled slowly. That was close, he said. Lyra shook her head. More. Come. Ethan realized they could not keep hiding in one place. They needed a plan. We have to reach a safe area. There is an old transport platform I saw when we came down. It might still work. Lyra looked at him with a small smile. You lead. I follow. Ethan smiled back. Good. We'll get there. They walked for hours, following narrow paths through the rocky desert. The sun climbed higher, and Ethan felt sweat running down his back. Lyra was quiet but steady, her pace strong for someone who had almost died the day before. At one point, Ethan slipped on loose sand and almost fell. Lyra caught his arm immediately, pulling him back. Careful, she said, her voice sharp. Thanks, he replied, smiling. You saved me now. She shook her head. You'd saved me first. I owe life. Ethan looked at her, realizing how serious she was. She did not speak like humans. Her people's customs were older, stricter, and more binding than anything he had known. Finally, as the sun began to dip, they reached the platform. It was half buried in sand, ancient and dusty. Lyra stepped forward, touching a glowing shard on her wrist. The platform shuddered and creaked, then slowly lifted off the ground. Ethan watched in awe. Wow, that still works? Lyra nodded. Ancient. Power protect. Me. They climbed aboard, and Ethan helped her into a small control seat. The platform hovered above the sand, then moved toward the ruins of an old city. Ethan could see tall structures, broken towers, and arches that stretched into the sky. They had been abandoned long ago. Inside the platform, Lyra explained more about her people. Kuran the Empire ruled many worlds, lost. Power. Ethan nodded slowly. So this platform is a leftover from their old empire? Yes. Protect me. Core. Ethan frowned. Core? What core? Lyra hesitated, then whispered, power. Crown control. Rebels want Meet Ethan's stomach tightened. He had not expected to be involved in something so big. He had helped a girl in need, but now he realized she carried a secret that could change worlds. The platform landed among the ruins. Ethan helped Lyra down carefully. She led him into a central hall, the walls engraved with glowing symbols. Light reflected off the stone in patterns that made him dizzy. This place. Old strong, Lyra said. Safe for now. Ethan looked around. Safe until the rebels find us, Lyra nodded. They track. Must be careful. Ethan realized the truth. They were being hunted, not just for her life, but for something powerful she carried. They had to move fast, stay hidden, and survive as night fell. They made a small camp inside the ruins. Ethan started a small heat source to keep them warm. Lyra sat quietly beside him, her glowing markings soft in the darkness. You know, Ethan said after a while, I still don't understand this bond thing. Why water makes you belong to me? She looked at him seriously. Life, choice, gift, human strong. Troop. Ethan rubbed his forehead. I hope your people understand that humans don't do this. Lyra smiled faintly. You gave life a simple. You choose. Important. Ethan realized she was not just speaking about rules. She was speaking about something deeper. About trust. About connection. About the simple act of helping someone when they are most in need. The night grew colder. Ethan wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. She leaned slightly against him, trusting him completely. He felt a strange sense of responsibility and care. Saving her had been simple. Protecting her now would be much harder. Yet, even in the cold and danger, Ethan felt hope. They had survived the first day together. They had found a temporary safe place. And somehow, in the harsh desert and under the two suns, a bond had formed, a bond that neither of them fully understood, but one that could change everything. Ethan looked at her glowing eyes and whispered, We'll get through this. Lyra, I'll make sure no one takes you from here. She looked at him and smiled faintly. I'll trust you. And for the first time, Ethan felt the weight of his promise. He had saved her with water, but now he had to protect her with everything he had outside. The desert wind howled. Sand shifted over the ruins, covering footprints and hiding their path. But inside the ancient hall, two unlikely allies rested. One was human, one alien. Both were bound by life, trust, and the dangerous future ahead. Tomorrow would be harder. But tonight, they were alive. And for now, that was enough. The next day, Ethan woke before the sun rose. The ruins were quiet, but he could feel the tension in the air. Lyra was already awake, sitting near a broken wall. She stared at the horizon, her blue markings glowing faintly. Ethan watched her for a moment. Even after everything, she seemed calm, almost as if she expected danger to come at any moment. We can't stay here long, he said softly. The rebels will find us if we do. Lyra nodded. Yes, they. Tracked. Ethan checked their surroundings. The ruins were full of narrow passages, old towers, and hidden corridors. Perfect for hiding, but not enough to keep them safe if someone came with enough power. I have an idea, Ethan said. There's a canyon not far from here. It has overhangs and tunnels. We could move there. It might be harder for them to find us. Lyra's eyes brightened slightly. Good hide. Safe. They packed what little supplies they had. Ethan carried extra water, rations, and some tools. Lyra moved lightly, her small frame giving her an advantage in the ruins. Together, they stepped outside, the morning sun's beating down on the sands. The desert was harsh and unforgiving. Rocks and jagged cliffs made their path difficult. Ethan led carefully, scanning for any sign of the rebels. He had no weapons except a small plasma cutter and a flare, but he trusted his own skills to improvise if necessary. After an hour, they heard a low hum in the distance. Lyra froze. Ethan squinted, noticing tiny dots moving above the sand. Drones, several of them. Scanning for heat signatures. They are close, he whispered. We need to move fast. Lyra grabbed his hand. Follow me. They ran toward a narrow crevice in the rock, sliding carefully into the shadows. Ethan held his breath as the drones passed overhead, their searchlights sweeping over the ground. When they were gone, he exhaled slowly. That was close, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. Yes, to close, Lyra replied. They want me. Ethan felt a chill. She was right. They were not just looking for her, they wanted something only she could provide. He had no idea what it was, but he knew it was dangerous. They moved quickly, the desert heat rising as the suns climbed. Ethan felt sweat running down his back, and his boots sank into loose sand. Lyra moved beside him effortlessly, almost floating across the rough terrain. He noticed how her body seemed made for this environment. Her people, he realized, were survivors, built to endure harsh worlds. By midday, they reached the canyon. It was narrow and deep, with high walls that blocked the suns. Rocks created natural tunnels and hiding spots. Ethan felt some relief. This place could hide them, at least temporarily. They set up a small camp in one of the tunnels. Ethan started a small heat source to cook their rations. Lyra watched quietly, her glowing markings faint in the dim light. Ethan said as he handed her some food. We have to figure out what these rebels really want. It's more than just capturing you, isn't it? Lyra nodded. Yes. Power core. Control. World. Change. Ethan frowned. Core. What core? She looked at him seriously. Ancient device. Make alive. Barren world. Alive only. My line activate. Ethan's eyes widened. You mean they want you to use it? Yes, rebels. Force, not grow. Control. Dangerous. Ethan felt a surge of determination. Then we have to stop them. We can't let them get it. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. You fight. Human. Ethan smiled faintly. I fight. I improvise. I do whatever it takes. She nodded, a small smile appearing. Gooder together. Strong. They spent the afternoon resting. Ethan checked his small plasma cutter, making sure it was ready. Lyra examined the walls, touching strange engravings that glowed faintly. She whispered in her language, and the stones pulsed slightly under her fingers. Those markings. Do they help you? Ethan asked. Yes. Guide and protect. Ancestor. Power. She replied. Ethan realized the ruins were more than shelter. They were alive in some way, and Lyra had a connection to them that he did not yet understand. As the suns began to set, they heard noises in the distance. Drones again. This time, closer. Ethan grabbed a flare and held it ready. They are coming, he whispered. Lyra touched his arm. Wait, I help. He nodded. Okay, let's see what we can do. The drones hovered over the canyon entrance, scanning the shadows. Ethan noticed loose rocks above. He whispered to Lyra, if I can create a small rockfall, we might distract them. She nodded, understanding without words. Ethan climbed carefully to a ledge, then dislodged a few large stones. They fell to the ground, making a loud crash. The drone's lights swiveled toward the noise, giving Ethan and Lyra a chance to move deeper into the canyon. They ran, ducking into narrow tunnels. Ethan felt his heart pounding, but he pushed forward. Lyra's hand remained in his, steadying him. Together, they moved faster than either of them expected. After a long run, they stopped in a hidden alcove. Ethan checked the canyon entrance. The drones had not followed. For now, they were safe. Lyra turned to him. You strong. Human brave. Ethan smiled. I'm just doing what I can. She shook her head. More clever. Think fast, life. Mind save. Ethan realized she was not just complimenting him. She was recognizing that humans, in their own way, could be more than their size or strength. They could think, improvise, and survive. The night in the canyon was cold. Ethan wrapped his jacket around Lyra again. She leaned against him, trusting him completely. He felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. Saving her with water had been one thing, but protecting her in a fight was something else entirely. Suddenly, Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. Ethan core, chamber. Ruins, danger. Coming. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The core chamber, he asked. You mean the place that controls whatever the rebels want? She nodded. Yes, only me. Activate, they. Not allowed. Ethan realized the danger was greater than he had imagined. They were not just running from people who wanted to capture her. They were running from people who wanted to use her power to change worlds. We need to move closer. Ethan said, if they reach you first, it could be too late. Lyra nodded. Yes, guide. Human. They set off carefully through the tunnels, using shadows and narrow passages to hide. Ethan could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Every step mattered. Every sound could give them away. After a tense journey, they reached the ruins where the core chamber was located. The walls were engraved with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. Lyra touched them, and the lights pulsed brighter. This. Safe for now, she whispered. Ethan looked around. The place felt alive. The air hummed with energy. He realized that the chamber was not just a machine. It was a living part of her people's history, waiting for someone of her line to activate it. Suddenly, noises echoed outside. The rebels had found them. Ethan grabbed his plasma cutter, ready to defend. Lyra stood beside him, her markings glowing brighter than ever. They, come ready, she said. Ethan nodded. We fight together. No one touches you. The first rebels broke into the ruins. They were armed and aggressive, expecting an easy capture. But Ethan used the tunnels and shadows to his advantage, throwing rocks and using the environment to trap them. Lyra touched the walls, and a faint shield formed around them, surprising even Ethan. The rebels hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Ethan and Lyra moved quickly, using strategy over brute force. Every move they made was calculated, every escape planned. The ruins themselves seemed to aid them, responding to Lyra's presence. After a tense battle of wits and agility, the rebels retreated, but they would be back. Ethan and Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The core chamber, her power, and the bond between them made them targets. But for the first time, Ethan felt something he had not expected. Hope. They had survived the hunt, learned to fight together, and discovered that Lyra's connection to the ruins could protect them. The bond formed by water, the simple act of saving her life, was stronger than either of them realized. Ethan looked at her. We can do this, Lyra. Together, she nodded. Yes, together. Strong, and in the ruins of an ancient world. A human and an alien princess prepared for the battles to come, knowing that their trust, their bond, and their courage would shape the future.